Well, welcome. Tim, thanks for presenting the pin to me. Oftentimes, Tim and I are grateful that the fact that we didn't go through grade school together because we were sure that we'd spend half the time up near the teacher. So if you could keep an eye on us. So anyway, it's always good to be free and be with him no matter where he's at. Thank you, Cardinal, for presenting that wonderful relic of our patron. We had an opportunity to go to Carmel and to be close to the tomb of our blessed patron, and I was really impressed, frankly, on Thursday night when we went to the cathedral to see the relic that you had presented up there in the cathedral. It's a wonderful, beautiful way to honor him and to be present with him. So tonight, I get my moment to speak to you for a few minutes. Fortunately, John Liston has withheld dessert until I'm finished. So stay tuned. So anyway, it's one way of keeping them there, Your Eminence. Your Eminences, Cardinal Collins and Cardinal LaCroix, Your Excellency, Bishop Walkovic, very reverend and reverend fathers, Serra and guests, and finally my dear wife Mary Lynn, and my children. First, let me recognize the Canadian Serrans who worked so hard to prepare this wonderful Serra International Convention. Mario and I joined the Serra International Board together in 2011 in Ottawa. The last time the convention was held here on Canadian soil. Thank you, Mario, and Tony, and Pat, and Moira, and Fran, and all the Canadian Serrans that worked so hard to make this a memorable reality. Thanks also to Cardinal Collins for his ongoing support, for spiritual inspiration as our Episcopal moderator for the past 4 years, and for all that you've done for Serra around the world. And thank you, Canada. It's just great to be here together with you. I'd also like to recognize my friends my Serra friends from Omaha, my home club, my club president, Sally O'Neill, and her husband, my good friend Tim O'Neill. Also Denny Walsh, past district governor of Nebraska and region director for the Central Region of the United States. He was my predecessor in many roles, and frankly was the guy who got me out of bed many times and said, you really should get out there and start working on this Serra stuff. But more importantly, he says, and I'll help you. And it made the difference to know that you had support to do the kind of work that we do here, because sometimes it's a lonely job. Welcome to my pastor and my friend, Father Dave Korth. So glad to have you here. He always encourages and supports me and occasionally shares a beer with me, and he's in much better spirits when he has a beer with him than I've seen him both ways, and I like it that way. So, and also another Omaha great friend of mine, Father Ralph O'Donnell. And Father O'Donnell, many of you will remember, was the past executive director of the United States Catholic Conference of Bishops, their committee on clergy, consecrated life, and vocations. Without his help, Serra's Spark would not exist in its current form. Our collaboration on this important, he and my collaboration on this important gift to the church, which started through a lunch, over a meal, it was a great gift to the church in the form of a new and updated vocations resource that Serra owned, but it hadn't put it together in a form that people could use as easily. And a dramatic transformation happened because of that moment in the support that you gave me to do that. And it dramatically improved the reach and effectiveness of Serra's many, many time-tested and effective vocation activities. So you'll remember, Father, that I said when we were talking about doing the activities, I said, We can do this. We can provide these activities and create that format in the digital resource. I said, but more importantly, what I think is cool about this opportunity is that it'll bring more Serrans into the work of the field. And so it creates an opportunity for Serrans to be engaged at the ground level, at the grassroots level, on the work of vocation. So thank you, Father Ralph. That's great. So I was talking with Ralph Hoiberg about whether you'd print these in 14-point or 16-point, and so we're trying to figure this out, Cardinal. We're watching you guys do your thing, and so I chose 14, by the way. Few times in a person's life can one honestly say that he or she is fully prepared for the future. Perhaps never. This is the case as I enter my year as president of Serra International. I'm sure there will be unforeseen demands, yet on the other side, I trust God will give me the wisdom over the next 12 months to apply my unique experiences and talents for the benefit of this great organization, this organization that we love, Serra. And I have all of the utmost faith that that's going to happen. My journey in Serra began in 1980. I didn't join then. But I met my first Serran. Now, at least knowingly met him. His name was Francis Schaefer. He was from Belleville, Illinois. He was from the Serra Club of St. Clair County, Illinois, across the river from St. Louis. At the time, I was just 30 years old. All right, 20. All right, watch what you asked for. So anyway, Francis Schaefer was 40 years older than me. And yet, even in the apparent generational distance, I quickly realized him to be my friend. We met while working on the foundation of a new national organization for Teens Encounter Christ, TEC. TEC Retreats, a movement which was, at the time, experiencing great growth around the country. And though he and I were decades apart and miles apart, we found ourselves working for the same goal, the introduction of Christ into many young people's lives through TEC Retreats. And it wasn't like a new introduction, it was more of an awakening. It was an encounter. And the encounter is the word that we want to use. It was my first opportunity to work with young people. Mary Lynn and I were invited by a priest friend of ours who became a great close friend of ours, and the most significant person voted by my family as the most important person in the family's life, in its history, Father James Brown. Not to be confused with the singer. In fact, you would not think him at all to be like the singer. So, but nonetheless, he started youth ministry in the Diocese of Omaha, and he had an issue that related to, he was working at Boys Town. Some of you may remember Boys Town or know about Boys Town, and he was the spiritual director there. And he wanted to connect his young men, his young boys that were there in the later years of their high school, to the gospel. And he loved them and he loved the gospel, but the method, the connector wasn't working. And that connector ended up being a TEC retreat, which was a way to involve people and a way to encourage young men and young women to really consider their formed understanding of faith, but to turn it on, flip the switch. I like to use that image of Michelangelo's painting on the Sistine Chapel of God about ready to touch the hand of Adam, a fully formed body, and in a sense representative of the faith catechesis instruction of these young people, but not yet alive. So the importance of that encounter happened in that particular situation. So this became important to me, and this is how I met Father Ralph O'Donnell in a very special way, because I got to know priests on these retreats. Marilyn and I were invited to be as young adults, but I mean, we were married, but we were just recently married a couple years. And so we got to lead these young seniors, girls and boys, along this journey to be part of it. And it was a big deal, important thing for us. So I met Francis Schaeffer. So Francis Schaeffer, he was a Serran, among other things, and he spoke of Serra in the highest terms. He became my first intergenerational Serra friend. His Serra connection was instrumental in obtaining a startup grant from the Serra International Foundation for Tech. The organization could not have started then without that important financial input. Years later, Tech has been documented to have reached over 100,000 young people aged 17 to 21 in 79 dioceses in the United States and in other places, with a Cursillo-style youth program, youth encounter. A few years later, in 1983, I was invited to join Serra. I joined for 3 reasons. First of all, it offered me a way to continue to be in close contact with my many priest friends that I had met on these retreats, and I had gained over the years, including Leif Supich and others in and around. I mean, so significant within the corpus, within the body of the Omaha communities, many. And then nationally, meeting many more after that. So secondly, it provided me with a necessary, as a young man, adult faith community. So working with young people is fun, but you want to go somewhere, and so you're not looking backwards, you want to be looking forwards. At least I did. And so the third reason is simply that was important to me to join this community of at that time, men in 1983. And the third reason was simply that a friend invited me. So he reached out and personally invited me, and as a young man, membership in Serra offered me new mentoring relationships with members of many walks in life and of many ages, many of them older or even much older than me. These relationships helped me grow as a young Catholic man with a growing family and a budding career. Intergenerational benefits might be a way to describe it. Every Serran comes from a club. My club, the Serra Club of Omaha, was chartered in 1951, the same year Serra was aggregated to the Vatican, and the same year that the Serra Foundation was incorporated. At that time, Omaha became the 67th club to be chartered since the founding of Serra, which now, in 2022, as Mike Bragg indicated in his presentation today, now with the recent chartering of the second club in the Grand Island Diocese in Grand Island, Kearney, Nebraska, now is over 1,200 clubs chartered since the beginning of Serra. When I joined Serra over 30 years ago, when I joined Serra over 30 years later, there were still charter members present among its members, with many of them still actively engaged in Serra-sponsored vocation activities of the club. Even the older, more reserved members who could be spotted at daily Mass doing one of the most important things of all Serra activities, pray. It was a great group to fall into. My associations and resultant friendships with Serrans over the years have been the grace of my life and of my family. The objectives of the Serra mission. Soon after I joined, I began to realize how the club supported the objectives of Serra. The first two being the most familiar. Of course, the admonition to foster and affirm young and budding lifelong vocations to the priesthood and consecrated religious life. The third objective, the one which I like to think of as the secret sauce of Serra, placed a high value on its members becoming informed and formed Catholics and action-oriented leaders of their family, their local diocese, and society at large with a familiar community. Early on, our leaders understood that Serra wasn't just for anyone. It was an organization which strived to attract leaders and soon to be leaders within the local church. It was a vocation call in and of itself. In 1956, when our Episcopal advisor then, Cardinal Samuel Stritch of the Archbishop of Chicago, said this to the Serra Convention assembled in New Orleans, Louisiana. He said, "The Serran must not only be a good Catholic, he or she must be a Catholic who's striving for perfection." Later, this was the objective, which was refined to be congruent with the Vatican II teaching of the universal call to holiness. Serrans were to find the answer to this universal call within the context of their local clubs. Could it get any more important than that? As the saying goes, there are three types of people: those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who say, "What happened?" And of course, there's two types of people too: those who think that there's three types of people, and those that don't. But Serra is an organization that is known worldwide within the Catholic Church as an organization consisting of those who make things happen, the doers, and I'm proud of that. Unfortunately, like other international service organizations, if there isn't an effort to provide new leadership, the organization undergoes a slow catharsis, and one day it discovers that it has died to its mission, being perceived more like a knife and fork club, a social club, or one that has a hard time recruiting new members, or even a more difficult time of retaining its members. These are symptoms of an unhealthy club. Healthy clubs are the bedrock of Serra. As Cardinal Stritch, again, also commented on that 1956 speech, Serra has to become a large organization of small units, clubs. Healthy clubs need to have good programs, good communications, regular membership drives, and lead diocesan-wide vocation support programs, as well as to instruct local parish communities through vocation committees. So, Serra Spark is a start at that. And the new Ignite program that Ann Road is leading, it leads Serra Spark into every diocese in the country. Anybody who wants it can have it. And it brings it right down to the smallest parish. So it's a big step forward. And thank you, USA Council President and the coordinator, Ann Road, our President, USA Council President-elect, for your dedication to this project. When we ask new people to consider joining Serra, we must remember that we are asking people to join an organization where they're expected to do something. Soon after I became a member, I was asked to become more deeply involved in the organization and was given tasks that said to me that even as a new member, I was expected to make a valuable contribution to this club. And I felt wanted, and I felt needed. I realized that in healthy clubs, there is no peanut gallery in Serra. If there is, it's to your detriment. New recruits, be they young or old, want to join something that is bigger than themselves. Therefore, there must be expectations given of new members. Club leadership must provide work that relates to a relevant mission, one that intimately is congruent with the expectations of the local bishop and his vocation director. Inviting new members to an organization that does important work. Keep this in mind. This is how your club will become great. So let's come to the theme of my year. Serra, now more than ever. It's not a new theme, but it's an important theme. This is our time, not another time, this time, to meet the vocation needs of our church today and of our organization. Unique challenges of the culture of a declining religious identity and affiliation of young people is a problem. With estimates as high as 80% of young people drifting away from the faith during their college years, this generation is experiencing a crisis in faith. In answer to this challenge, Serra created and developed the College Connection program, connecting graduating high school seniors with local college campus ministries. Between 50,000 and 75,000 a year of graduating seniors are being connected to Newman Ministries through their program that we've forwarded to them. It's important work. Challenges to the church in the wake of an adversarial secular culture are a big problem for us too. In the wake of the sexual scandals which have been largely promoted, many of our priests are feeling a sense of attack. COVID restrictions which pit parishioners against each other, and even the indigenous residential school issue with their history of government-sponsored cultural assimilation are just some of the challenges that wear down our priests and our religious. As our Holy Father encouraged Serrans in his 2017 address, he said, "Serrans, we need you. Serrans, you are friends to priests and religious and seminarians." Challenges to the historical legacy of our patron Saint Junipero Serra are also a problem. In answer to this, we need to study and understand and appreciate the real history of our patron and our Saint Junipero Serra. Attacks on his legacy are also indirect attacks on the authority of the church, the moral authority of the church. We need to educate ourselves and rediscover the reason why our early founders claimed Serra as their patron and chose to even name themselves after this great and holy Franciscan missionary. Challenges to the worldwide church and the decline of religious vocations in a church that is growing in numbers worldwide, but declining in traditionally strong Catholic countries. There are now 11,000 Catholics to every diocesan priest in Brazil. 8,000 per priest in Mexico. 3,000 Catholics on average per diocesan priest in the United States. Those are issues that need to be addressed. Parish consolidations in the United States Church with shifts of populations from rural to urban, and an increasing proportion of Latino Catholics within the Catholic population, with over 50% of our young Catholics under 18 now being identified as Latino. This is the church of today, and it's going in a direction that we need to approach. So we must realize the importance of its mission, Serra's mission. We must recognize the great gratitude that those who have seen Serra in active form in its local area are increasingly grateful for the support and zeal that Serrans bring to their local church. The zeal of our patron, St. Junipero Serra, in the work of vocations is a constant requirement, and one that requires a strong Serra club. So it's Serra now more than ever. So as your president, I promise to keep that theme front and center in our work towards becoming the lay vocations arm of the Catholic Church. And you think about it, are we? Yes, we are. Are we what we want to be yet? No, we're not. Is that a problem? It's an opportunity. It's the challenge. Serra is relevant and is organized to do very important work of our church, namely fostering vocations to religious life and priesthood, and in growing Catholic leaders for today's world. Please pray for vocations daily, and then let's roll up our sleeves and get to work. the harvest master awaits our labor. God bless you.